Well, howdy all you collector car fans out there. This is once again Jason, the owner and founder of Southern Motorsports. So this little Tales from the Bush is quite an adventure. I wish people could feel and see what I went through to go through all this stuff. This right here is a 70 383 Charger. Now, this Tales from the Bush is more for hopefully people in the future in buying what is called a survivor car. This is a survivor car. This car has never been touched. I was actually got a flat tire, and the old fella had come out to help me out because I had a van and my 30-foot long trailer, and he asked me what kind of business that I was in, and I told him, and he's like, well, I got one of those old cars. And he brought me over to that bar you see in the background right there, and sure enough, this yellow car was sitting in there. To get it to this point right here, it took me an awful lot to get this car out. But she was a beauty, and he was the original owner. Those are the original hubcaps. It's the way he ordered the car. So I thought it was important to do a video on survivor cars because a lot of people think they have a survivor car or are about to buy what they think is a survivor car, and it's really not. So what's the big deal about a survivor car? Well, I mean, there's a lot of things. Biggest thing is what you're going to pay for the car. This fella right here didn't understand any of the survivor car or knowledge or anything like that. He wasn't even really interested in selling the car, but when I pulled out some cash for him, he's like, well, I'll take that. Yeah, you can have it. This car's been sitting here forever. This was actually after I was still on his property and I cleaned it up. I stayed out there for a whole day, cleaned it up a little bit so I could get it onto the trailer. But this is a true 383 Dodge Charger survivor car. So it really doesn't matter what kind of car it is. This is what a car looks like when it's untouched. It looks like crap. I mean, it's completely untouched. It was sitting in his barn. But the whole reason that I wanted to do this is because the survivor car term gets used so widely by everybody. And then everybody gets excited because it's a survivor car. They're going to see a car that's completely untouched. Well, they're not really that pretty when they're not touched and when they're actually a real survivor car. And as you can see, this car is not pretty. It's the same situation that it is with a lot of these cars. When they took the lead out of gasoline and they only had unleaded gasoline, these cars ran like crap. They sounded, when you laid into them, they sounded like a diesel engine. And when they ran like crap like that, really there wasn't much you could do except for bring it into a mechanic, get them to take the leaded head valves off, take the valves out of the car and put unleaded valves in it. And a lot of these old cars got parked, just like this old man said. He said the car didn't run worth a crap with the unleaded gasoline, and he just parked it. That's why there's no damage to the car. Super solid car. It was a daily driver for him. And once that gasoline switchover came, that was it. So I wanted everybody to get a look at what an actual survivor car looks like so they would know you don't need to pay the survivor car price if you're going to have to take the car apart anyways. This car right here, as ugly as it is, as rough as it might be because it is an actual survivor, I wouldn't take this car apart. I actually drove this car around for a little while before I sold it. It was a fun car to drive around. It didn't help that the driver's seat was a little broke, but you know, I definitely had a little fun driving it around. Super solid car, pretty much everything worked on it. You know, I worked on it a little bit to get it roadworthy, but you know, this was the original owner. He hadn't touched the car. And he was quite proud of the car, but like I said, I just got a flat tire on the side of the road, so you never know where these cars are. You know, I was just in rural West Virginia, I think, and let me tell you, if you haven't been to a rural area of West Virginia before, it's quite an experience. It's different. That's definitely for sure. It's a lot of farmers out there, and you know, they're just making ends meet. I guess this old fellow didn't even care about this car, just happened to be sitting there, and when I told him, you know, I'd sure like to get this car from you so I can drive it around and stuff, yeah, sure. I asked him what he wanted for it, and you can see it was rough. I just stuck a battery that I usually keep for my winch in it, and it took me a little while, but I got it fired up. $8,500. That's what I paid for that car. $8,500. And you can tell that car has never been touched. I mean, it was rough, but the whole point of me doing this was so people could see what an actual survivor car looks like. They're not pretty. I mean, they're not always pretty. Most people would say this car needs to be taken apart and restored, and it's definitely justified to do that. It was a numbers matching car front to back. Car was solid. You wouldn't be spending a lot of money on body work, and it was definitely worth taking this car apart and restore it. I chose to sell it because it's the business that I'm in, but this is one of those cars I wish I would have kept because it was a really cool car. Now this next car coming up, same sort of situation. I happened to be driving around this neighborhood, and this guy was literally pushing this car out of the garage when I rolled by, and I stopped in and asked him if he was looking to sell it and stuff. And once I told him who I was, he was like, wow, I go on your website all the time. Your site's really cool. And it's obviously a long time ago, but I was starting to get recognized by people. And this was a numbers match in 383 Go Mango Go Fast car, 383 4-speed. This car had no options, nothing. I mean, there was no power, anything on this car. It was straight, get up and go. Some of my other videos I've said were I used to carry a lot of money with me. This is a classic example. I was literally just driving down the road when this guy was literally just pushing this out of his garage to do some work in his garage. I would carry between, $50 and usually $75,000 with me. The other reason why I carry a gun, more than one gun with me, on me, concealed weapons permit, and I always carried a trained dog with me. Because you never know when this kind of stuff's going to happen. You got to be ready for it, especially when I'm hauling a van with an empty trailer. That trailer empty is me not making any money. So this car was actually pretty cool. It was super solid. Didn't need a ton of body work on it, but it was a bone stock car. I mean, I don't even think it had a radio in it. That's what a go fast car is. It's just motor, no AC, no power windows, no nothing. It was just a 383 4-speed. Yeah, it's a 70. I think I said 69, but it's a 70. 70 Go Fast Roadrunner. And, the guy had already done quite a bit of work to it. And, the hard stuff was already done. He was going to restore it, but, he knew times were getting tough. But, he had all the parts for the car. He had the original motor and transmission. You can see you put a deck panel in there right there, and around the window it's still pretty good. But, I said, are you interested in selling it? He's like, well, I've done a lot of work to it. Not really interested in selling it. I said, if you were going to sell it, what kind of money would you want for it? And obviously, he threw a stupid number out there, and it was a number that wasn't realistic for me because I could tell he didn't really want to sell it. But I said, give me a second. And I went to my van, and I came back, and I said, I said, let me just verify the motor and the transmission, and I did, and I pulled out $10,000, and I said, how's that sound? And he's like, well, that's close to where I was. Okay, I'll sell it. Of course, I didn't need the car, and I really didn't have a place to put it, but, this was something that I knew that I could hang on to for a little while and just stick it into storage, and it'd be worth something a little bit later on, because this is a great bare bones place to get started with. I mean, the floors were good, the trunk was good, the metalwork that needed to be done, he had already done it. And he was just doing this in a single car garage and just a hobby for him. And I didn't want to take his hobby away from him or his dream, but, we were talking about, we were in a time where, people could use money, and people always could use money, but we were getting in a bit of a rough time, and, he sold it. But, that's the whole point of what this Tales from the Bush is even though the car has been taken apart, do you consider this a survivor car? No, this car has been touched. So that yellow Charger you saw in the beginning, the car had never been touched. If you start repainting it and taking the motor out and all that, that's not a survivor car anymore. That's a car that's been handled. It's still an original numbers matching car or whatever, but the car has been touched, it's been taken apart, it's been painted. It's not a survivor car anymore. I'm talking about a car like that yellow Charger, which is why I did this series. A car that had not been touched. Literally, I pulled it out of the guy's barn. He parked it because when he started running unleaded gas, it ran like crap. The other thing I hope that people that maybe don't know so much about the business understand is when you get a car like this is rough. You're looking at 50 grand, 2 to 3 years, not even seeing this car. Just to get this car restored. Now check this building out. This is a little hidden thing I'm going to do later. Look at all those cars. That building was full of some of the rarest Mopars ever made. I'm talking cars that were one of one. The whole building was full of one of one. So many rare cars, it was ridiculous. I'm going to do a Tales from the Bush of this a little bit later on. Yeah, look at that stuff right there. All over the place. Well, I appreciate you coming by and checking out another Tales from the Bush. And don't forget to hit that special thanks button beside the share button and really help me out to keep going and doing what I'm doing.